This week, we're back on the phones to the USA with Brian Garcia.
This is Anyone Can Play Guitar, the podcast for musicians and music lovers that takes you behind the scenes of the music industry. This week is brought to you in partnership with MGR Music. Ever wanted to learn an instrument, hone your skills, or pick up something completely new? You can get so far by yourself, however, professional guidance can make all the difference. With a network of tutors right across the UK and rates starting from as little as £15 per hour, visit mgrmusic.com now to get started.
Hello and welcome to episode 76, our full interview with superfan Brian Garcia, with me, Ben, and him,
James.
So James, you are back on the phone to the USA talking to Brian Garcia, superfan of Oasis. I'm currently wearing an Oasis t-shirt.
You are, actually.
You may not have noticed that.
Well, I probably did, but perhaps not, because we are about to record a bit of spiel for this very interview.
Yeah,
Clearly that's why you put it on this morning.
No, and I didn't put it on this morning, I put it on this afternoon. But I've got a fact about this t-shirt, which I'm going to tell you after this little snippet from last week's episode with She Drew the Gun.
Just start off, as soon as I had like a set, or as soon as I had enough to do like a few songs at an open mic, I just started going to them and then just kept on building more material, and then you just meet other musicians. And Liverpool's like it's quite like a small community, but it's like there's a lot of musicians.
This better be a good fact.
This is a sobering fact, James. As you know, I recently moved jobs and now work at university. This t-shirt is now older than the first year students at my university. Yes.
Wow. Jeez.
Yes. I mean, that is sobering. But this is a segue and a half, James.
I remember when talking to Brian in this interview, because we went to, the t-shirt that gig is from.
Yep, it's the 10 Years Noise and Confusion
tour, yes. And because they did 2 dates in Glasgow from memory.
Yep.
One of them was filmed.
Correct.
And I don't know whether you can buy it or not or view it, but it's a thing.
It's definitely online, yeah.
And he was like, oh, no way, did you go to that? You know, I was like, yeah, well, not technically. We were at the one that wasn't filmed. We start off just about fandom in general and what it's like to be a super fan, which I think it's quite good for any musician to get almost into the mindset of someone who becomes... whether it's a fan in the sense that Brian is, who's just gone full-on like memorabilia collection, or whether it's just someone who really loves the music, the types of things that get them to that point of fandom, I think was quite a good episode. Potential pairing could be the double header from season 1 with Mark Duffett.
Yes.
On fandom.
Yeah.
Yes. Exactly. University link.
Oh,
there as well.
Very nice.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was very good in terms of delve into the different, forms of fandom as well.
Quick thank yous this week, James. Straight to Brian. Actually, no, it's not. We also have to thank James from the Oasis podcast.
Indeed. Yeah, it's still one of the many things that we need to get around to doing, but I was going to sort of make an appearance on his show, because, again, to talk to him about fans in general, which we've just not got round to sorting out, and he was going to come on and was just sort of saying, oh, do you know any particularly massive sort of super fans? And he was like, oh, well, you should check out Brian. I've had him on the show before. Got in touch, and then ended up having a really good, long, great conversation with Brian. So yeah, big shout out to the Oasis podcast for putting us in touch.
And with that being said, James, here's Brian.
Remember, a great way to support the show is to go on iTunes or wherever you get your podcasts and give us a rating and a review. It really does make a massive difference for the show. Now, on with the episode. Okay, hello Brian, welcome to the podcast. How are you doing?
Hey, I'm doing fantastic, James. Really excited to get this. Actually, first off, thank you for inviting me on. It's a big deal for me to be able to talk about my passion. So I appreciate it. Thank you.
No, not a problem, and it's good to have you on. And we've finally negotiated some daylight saving time issues, specifically at my end, in terms of navigating British Standard Time and Central US Time.
Yeah, we figured it out, but we're here. Thank goodness.
Definitely. So, what we're going to be talking today about is being a music fan, and specifically your dedicated passion for one particular band in Oasis, and sort of how you went from being a music fan to being a fan of Oasis to then transitioning into a real sort of massive super fan of them. Because I think that's going to be really interesting for our listeners who are sort of musicians in a band themselves, who would sort of die to have dedicated fans like yourself. So before we dive into all of that, do you want to give a bit of background in terms of how you first got into music in general? What's your sort of backstory?
In general, wow. So it started really early on. I think the earliest memory, obviously we all have nursery rhymes and whatnot, but moving a little more advanced than that, the movie La Bamba came out. I remember literally, and I think this is part of, I think early on I've always had like this obsessive personality. So there's a little cable that's off in my brain that when I like something, I really get into it. The movie La Bamba had come out, and I think my mother took me to watch that movie about 15 times in the movie theater. And just something, and it wasn't, because I could have seen any movie 15 times. Yeah. It had been, I don't know, Bambi, Dumbo, all these other movies 15 times. Anyway, it was La Bamba, and I don't know if it was a story. I think it was everything. It was something about being on stage. It was the music. Every song, it almost held a special place, like in my heart. It's funny to say, but even to this day, like that whole soundtrack, the La Bamba soundtrack, like every song on there, like I still enjoy thoroughly. I can put it on at any time. But that's my earliest memory. I remember I had my mom buy me a small little guitar because I thought I was the incarnation of Richie Valens. I used to play this little wooden guitar out of tune. I didn't even know what I was doing, but I would play, jump on my bed, like pretend like I was having a little concert. And as I got older, I was always listening to, obviously in England or in the UK, I don't know if anybody's familiar with Casey Kasem, but he was a national US DJ, and he'd have a top 40 show every Sunday. So I remember, this is back when we had cassettes and tape recorders. So I was a kid, I was 7, 8. So a lot of the times I would refuse to go to church to stay home to record. So if he'd start the top 40, I'd record all my favorite songs, and the top 10 I'd always record on the cassette. I remember doing that. I remember listening to every song, all the top hits. And as I got older, through elementary school, which is grade school, I had a class. It was like a 5th grade class, and we used to bring music every Friday. And our teacher would let us bring a cassette. He would play. One person would bring a cassette, and we'd listen to it. So that was always a lot of fun. And as I got older, I got into Nirvana. And I always say, had it not been for Oasis, had Oasis never come to the scene, had something happened to them, Oasis never formed, I think Nirvana would be my band, because in about 1992, 93, I was really getting into Nirvana. Yeah. And up until 94, I mean, you think my walls are obsessive Oasis now. My bedroom was corner to corner. I remember getting color copies, and this is color copies in 1993 when nobody had a color copier, so I don't remember where I would get all my pennies from, and I went and got color copies, and every inch of my room from the top to the bottom, above my door, everything was covered in Kurt Cobain. And I was just so I don't know if it was obsessed. I wasn't obsessed. I was just a massive fan of the music because I immersed myself in everything that Nirvana was. I learned about the history. I learned about where Kurt came from. Where Chad Channing was the original drummer. Then Dave Grohl. Just everything about Nirvana. Like I read books. I read the book Come As You Are. Everything. I remember sitting in geography class. I would be sitting in geography class, and so instead of paying attention to my teacher, I was writing the lyrics to all of Nevermind and all of Bleach. And it wasn't till Kurt had just killed himself that I became even a more diehard fan. And at the time, this was 94, obviously. It was April 94. Kurt killed himself. little further, maybe May, June. I'm not really sure of the month. I was watching MTV, and there was a commercial that it was a montage of different music at the time, and I remember specifically it was Stone Temple Pilots. It was Portishead, Sour Times that was on there, and the very last song as the outro was Live Forever. And I was like, oh, that's an interesting little song. I was like, and when that song came out, I remember going to the record store and asking the guy, I was like, hey, man, I was like, I remember his face, like, to this day. I wish I knew who he was, because this was the guy that, you know, basically told me who Oasis was. He's like, it's a track on that one. He goes, you know, I remember buying it. I remember buying it that day, and I remember going home to listen to it. I listened to that track, and I listened to a few others, but I'd like to think that was a defining moment for me, but it wasn't. I went home, I listened to it, I was like, yeah, it's a great track, great CD, great album. I put it up. You know, I was still in my Nirvana phase, and it wasn't until a little bit later on. I mean, I was enjoying it from time to time, but it wasn't until What's the Story, Morning Glory came out that it was like a shotgun blast in the face when I heard Don't Look Back in Anger for the first time. I just remember how powerful that song impacted me. And I remember to this day, I went home to watch it live for the world premiere on MTV. I went to my uncle's house because he had one of those huge box big screen
Right.
TVs with the lines running up and down with that big plastic screen. So I watched it on that. I remember I was sitting on his blue recliner, and I remember when I watched that video, I was like, it was always like a time warp. It was like the room got sucked into like this time warp, and I was just like locked into the TV screen. And something, I don't know if it was the imagery of the British culture in that video that affected me so much, because it was so different. The music was a little bit different. It wasn't grunge, it wasn't Soundgarden, it wasn't Pearl Jam, it wasn't Nirvana, and it was almost like it was so like almost hopeful, and just like it was a different energy. It was like I use the analogy, it was like a cold shower, like when you waking up and you just puts that drops a cold bucket of water on, it's like you wake up. And after that, I literally never looked back, and I never it's almost like I never looked at a band the same way as I did Oasis from that day. So it was really What's the Story, Morning Glory that really changed. That was the tipping point. It wasn't until later on the whole collecting thing came in, because at the time I was young. I was 15? But I was so far away from the actual source that going to a show, not only number one was not I was far away, but number two, I didn't have the means to travel and go see them. So I kind of didn't even think about that. I was just an Oasis / music fan from there on out.
Okay, no, I mean that's it's really interesting and a good backstory there. I mean, there's a few things that I want to sort of just touch on there. I think if you go back to, I guess, when you first sort of got into Nirvana, what I'm interested in is you said there you liked all sorts of music and listened to all
Right.
sorts, yet still your bedroom was covered wall to wall in Nirvana. What was it particularly that made you focus on one particular band in terms of, I'm going to spend whatever money or time I have on, posters for my wall, and it's just going to be this one band? What was it that drew you to that sort of band versus all the others initially?
Right. It was. I'll tell you exactly what it is. It's like anything in life. It's like if you're passionate about something, like when you live and breathe and you believe and you feel and you eat, sleep, and drink what you do, it will sell. And people know what is real, and they can feel what is real, and they feel passion. And I'm not saying that other bands, aren't passionate. Please don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
If anybody who's listening to this, like, oh, what are you saying? My band is we're not passionate about what we do. But it's just maybe it was just the torment maybe in Kurt that was able to transform, almost become something tangible. You could actually feel his spirit coming through in that. Like, it's like, wow, like if you listen to a track of Nirvana, like you listen to him scream, it's not screaming. It's like that's he's feeling that.
Yeah, it's powerful.
You listen to Aneurysm, and it's like even a cover band can't do that. Yeah, you can scream in it, but whatever it was that was in his voice, like you felt it and it hit you. And when you're passion will sell itself. And not only will it sell itself, but when something speaks to your soul, it'll change your life. It'll change your life just that much. And that's what Oasis and I think Nirvana did to me. Like when Oasis came, you can't write a song like Rock and Roll Star and not either live it, feel it, or believe it. You know?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, absolutely. I see where you're coming from. And I think that almost just sheer honesty and transparency.
Yeah, it's exactly what it is.
Yeah, it makes perfect sense, and it's sort of understandable that's as a music fan yourself, that's what drew you into those bands, and made you sort of relate to and then focus on, I guess, at that point.
Yeah, it's almost the music, the songs became personalities. And you know, everybody feels, and everybody, you know, we're social beings. So when you feel like music is talking to you, it's like, wow, it's like you almost have feelings for that song. As funny as that may seem, you start bonding with that song, you start relating to that song, or a band, or an image, or how you felt, or where you were when that song came on. Like all of that was. And then the imagery, it's like, wow, it's like you have sleeves like, I still think definitely maybe it's one of the greatest sleeves of all time. It's like, it's wow.
Yeah, I'm interested actually when you mentioned about Don't Look Back in Anger, and you were talking about that sort of giving you a snapshot into sort of British culture, I think you mentioned.
Right.
If that video had have been completely different, and I'm thinking for artists starting out at the moment, if you'd heard that song for the first time, and let's say, well, maybe it had just been on the radio and there was no visuals associated to it, or perhaps the video was different, do you think that would have had the same impact on you?
I don't think so. I know it was a great song. I remember hearing it for the first time. I was like, wow, you know, like, wow, what a song. But together with the video, it's like, as an American, I'm looking at the TV, I'm going, oh, funny little car, and a funny little man, and this little John Lennon glasses wearing guy, and you know, look at these girls dressed around like, you know, in mod clothes. Like, you don't have that in the U.S. You just don't have that. And it was so cool. Like, seeing that was just cool. It was like, wow. It's like, it's not long hair. It's not grunge scene. It's not pop. It's not metal. It's not anything we've ever seen before. And I was like, this is really interesting.
Yeah, and that makes sense. I mean, you know, something that's different and out of the norm, catching people's attention. So you've seen that video. You're then starting to listen to the rest of the album. But like you say, that at that point in time, they're on the other side of the pond and a long way from you. And at this point, I think it's fair to say you've become a fan.
Yeah.
What comes next for you? So you're sitting there, you like this band, they're interesting, you like the music, but there's a visual, cultural sort of point of interest as well that sort of sucked you in.
Right.
What comes next?
Well, so at that time I was, I was into music, a lot of music at the time. Oasis puts out Be Here Now. Be Here Now is a great album. I remember the day I bought that. But I was already such a massive Oasis fan, it didn't affect me the same as What's the Story, Morning Glory did. So I was already cruising at 100 miles an hour at that time. So it wasn't that big of an impact. So it didn't really feel different.
Okay.
It wasn't until later on, their later albums, I went off to college. I went to Austin, and I went to college. And being in college, I was going to school with blah blah blah. So I didn't have much time for music anymore. I was very dedicated to my studies, and my quote unquote fandom, my my fan card kind of went down. It wasn't until, Don't Believe the Truth. I just gotten out of college. Don't Believe the Truth came out. And I remember I bought that CD, I think it was May 26th, I can't remember, May something. Whenever it debuted, I remember I was in New York City in Times Square, and I was with my buddy, and I walked into the Virgin Megastore, which was in Times Square at the time. It's not there anymore.
Yeah.
And I remember listening to the CD on the headphones. I was like, wow. I remember listening to The Importance of Being Idle, and I was like, wow, that refreshed my, it burned that fire that I've always had, but it just fueled it to like this massive flame. Dig Out Your Soul came out, and then they broke up, and I was like, I remember the first person ever to tell me that Oasis broke up was a girl named Jessica McGraw, and at that time she wrote. I remember I woke up, and at that time I looked on my timeline, and she wrote. She goes, "You must be so sad," and I was like, "What?" And I remember I clicked like because I was like, oh cool.
Yeah.
Somebody's writing me. And I was like, what's going on? She goes, you didn't hear? And I go, what? She goes, your band broke up. And I go, what? And there I go, because I didn't have cable in my apartment at the time, so I didn't have any. All I had was a computer, and I was looking online, and I was like, no. And I was like thinking to myself, this is ridiculous. I was like, I didn't believe it. I mean, I believe they broke up, but I was just like, oh, this is silly. They're going to get back together.
Yeah.
Like always. I really did. I held out for like 6-8 months. It wasn't until Liam started talking about BDI that I really started to believe it. And I was like, wait, this can't, this isn't happening. Like, is it? And then, Liam started announcing BDI, and then Noel, High Flying Birds. I was like, wow. I was like, I can't believe it. So, that had a lot to do with it, them breaking up. Because I do remember buying promos. I bought, the Odd Thing Here, the Vox Box. I had little promo coins and stuff like that. But it was a breaking up, and the fact that you had the explosion of the internet and eBay and YouTube. It just made collecting so much easier.
Right.
You had these fan sites. Social media made things a lot easier and a lot smoother to get and acquire things that before it was actually kind of hard,
Okay, so I want to get into the sort of collecting point, but before that, though, it was interesting to hear you talk about how you almost had a bit of a gap in your fandom when you went off to do your studies. So I'm interested in from a fan perspective. Because I suspect a lot of fans go through that type of period, which for one reason or another, they'll go from listening to someone's music every day, all the time, to a period where they're not. So yeah, I'm interested in what that was sort of like in terms really of how you go from a position of you were sort of building up in terms of your level of fandom, as I would describe it, and then almost sort of dropping off a cliff for a while.
I did, but I always had, because in those years that I say that I kind of dropped off, it's funny because like my college backpack, I remember it was a burnt orange backpack, and on it I specifically put an Oasis patch on the very center in the back. And even now that I've graduated from college, people that I still keep in contact with, the first thing they remember about me is that I was an Oasis fan. I'd always talk about Oasis. But I wasn't, just living, breathing, eating, sleeping Oasis all the time, like I was like just before and a little after. Like I did go see Oasis while I was in college. I actually drove to Boston, which is like 3,000 miles away from here, just to see a show.
Wow.
Took a road trip up to Boston. I saw them in Austin when they played City Limits. But it was always there. It's just I didn't have the time, the resources, more of the time. I didn't have the time to dedicate to Oasis like I did. And it's not that it wasn't there, because I always remember listening to, Don't Put the Weight of the World on My Shoulders, which is a B-side. And I always remember listening to that song on the way to school, because I would I'd take public transportation to school. And I always remember specifically listening to that song and how much I loved that song. Oasis did get me through, that was like the soundtrack to my college career, but the fan craze wasn't there as much.
Okay. So then when you got when that time became available again, was there a specific moment? I think you've sort of touched on it already, but in your mind, was it a conscious sort of decision to say, right, I'm now getting really back into it, and I want to do X, Y, and Z? Or how did that sort of? What was it?
Wow. You know what? I literally I can't say what moment it was that it was just like, okay, you know what? I'm just going to start. I'm going to mentally make it a point to build a collection. I remember ordering some little promo things here and there on eBay. Dig out yourself playing cards. I was like, oh, those are kind of neat. A little matchbook here. And then when you buy small things, you never know who's selling them. And then all of a sudden you'll get a message like from somebody who bought something from you, like, hey, I know I sold you, to Stop Crying Your Heart Out, promo lighter. I have a few more things that I think you might be interested in. And I'm like, yeah, what is it? It's like, oh, did you know I have an award, or did you know I have a display, a shop display, or did you know I have a printer's proof, or whatever it was. And I was like, what's a printer's proof? And they're like, oh, it's this, and this, it's a microdot, blah, blah, blah,
Yeah.
And I'm like, wow. And just the more I would get into it, the more everything, it was a snowball. First it started out like just a little grain of sand. And it started gathering momentum and became a tennis ball, and that tennis ball grew into a volleyball. And that volleyball turned into a bowling ball, and that bowling ball turned into a hot air balloon, and that hot air balloon is just something I can't even control anymore. I literally cannot control it. Like, I have things like I have to buy storage units, I have to literally buy containers, I have to put things in frames that have UV protected glass, sleeves with acid-free backing, all sorts of stuff. I have an amp that doesn't even fit in my house. So I made a post a few days ago that says, I don't even own my collection owns me, and it literally does. And I think about this quite often, like, what was the tipping point from going from a casual collector to hardcore? And I can't put my finger on it, because I remember when I got my second Vox box, and Vox box is a rare promo item that supposedly there's only 100 of. I remember I had one, and I was like, okay, if I just get a Union Jack guitar, like, I will be happy, and I won't want to collect anymore. Anyway, I got the Union Jack guitar. Okay, I'm still not happy. There's another Vox box for sale. Okay, oh my God, I have two of 100. Oh my God. And that's exactly what keeps my fire going. It's because I'm always chasing that unicorn. I'm always chasing that pot at the end of the rainbow. There's people will be like, oh, well, I've been asked, like, by personal, people in my, immediate life, and they're like, well, when do you think when are you going to stop collecting? And the answer is, like, I won't. I just won't. I won't stop collecting. I don't see, whatever it is, I don't see an end to it, because I'm always chasing that next thing. I remember telling myself, if I just owned a guitar that was used by Noel Gallagher, I swear on everything, I promise I will stop. I got one. And it didn't stop. I got another one, and it hasn't stopped. And I've got drum kits and basses and amps used on tours and on music videos, and drum kits used on recordings, and just the original equipment they used to record their first demos. And it's just like, it doesn't stop, and there's always something more, and it's always, I don't know, it's just, I find it all so interesting. Now what I want to do is, but since I do have so much stuff, like, I want to preserve. That's exactly what I want to do. I want to preserve Oasis in its physical form. I want to preserve the history of it. I want to be the curator of everything that was and is Oasis.
Yeah, I can see a museum opening here.
Yeah, I literally have, and that's my end goal. I'm actually working with Brian Cannon. He's the sleeve designer for Oasis. He and I are very good friends. And the end goal is to open a museum, so we can bring, because there are things that are in my collection that nobody has ever seen, but there are some very, very, very exciting things that I have in my collection that I don't even believe that I own. That will be shown one day here very soon when hopefully it will all go on display for people to enjoy. So, and it'll tell the entire story. I mean, I have stage use set. I mean, when I say stage use set list, I mean a ton of stage use set lists, guitars used on stage. Just it goes on and on. Recording equipment, lyric sheets. I have the last ever Oasis item that was ever signed as a band with pictures. I have the first piece of equipment they used to ever record their demos. So I have the very first item to the very last item. And everything in between, anything that you can imagine. I've got NME awards, I've got amps, I've got gold discs, I've got the Hat and Wonderwall that I'm looking at. Right next to me is the drum kit used to record Be Here Now. To my left, I've got Andy Bell's basses, hanging on my wall, handwritten lyrics, just gold platinum awards. And the list goes on and on and on and on and on. But there's some really, really special items that I want the world to see that are going to come out. So that's why if you look at my Instagram page, it's kind of slowed at the moment. I'll still keep posting, but the big items are still yet to be seen. So I'm really excited and looking forward to for people to enjoy. It's not even about me. It's not about what I have. It's not about the collection that I've amassed. It's about bringing it to the people, because I know, without a doubt, Oasis fans are the most dedicated. Yeah, you have the Rolling Stones. Yeah, you have the Beatles. Yeah, you have whatever. But when the rubber meets the road, Oasis fans we're rabid fans, and we go all in. So like me, for example, I'm such a fan that my little girls both of our little girls are named after an Oasis reference. Our oldest, her name is Oasis, and then our second her name is Nirvana, but her middle name is Supernova for Champagne Supernova. So Nirvana, Supernova, and Oasis. So every part of my life is Oasis, and I just want to bring that passion to the masses. And I know people will enjoy it, because that makes me happy, and I know it will make other people happy to see that.
This week is brought to you in partnership with MGR Music. Ever wanted to learn an instrument, hone your skills, or pick up something completely new? You can get so far by yourself, however professional guidance can make all the difference. With a network of tutors right across the UK and rates starting from as little as £15 per hour, visit mgrmusic.com now to get started.
Just half-time, James. Good calls of the week.
It's a half-time whistle.
It is. And he has Brian to talk about his charity of the week.
Yeah, the MDS Foundation, which is a mild dysplastic syndrome. It's caused of bone marrow failure, which I actually suffered from, which is another reason which I didn't even get into that was kind of out. So I had some aplastic anemia, but it all got sorted out. So there was a downtime in my life there that I was going through. It's funny, I didn't even talk about that, because I don't know, I kind of blocked that out because it was so bad. But that had a lot to do with my, the collecting stopping, because I had a lot of personal health bills and problems and all this other stuff. So I had no time, energy, or anything to. So it's a pre-cancer.
Yeah.
But thank God everything's good. Family's good. I'm good. Everything will be okay from here on out. So.
No, good stuff.
Like I said,
I'm
very blessed, and that makes this whole collection thing even more extraordinary to me personally, because there was a time that nothing was important, just staying alive was important.
Yeah, it gives life a lot of perspective when you have those sorts of
without a doubt. So the MDS Foundation, the mild dysplastic syndrome.
If you want to learn more, just go to our show notes and you'll find all the links that you need. Now, back to the episode.
Listening to you sort of just list all of the things out. I mean, well, firstly, I'm getting a sense of why you need so much storage.
It's not good. It's not a good problem to have on that.
I can imagine not. I mean, is there any for bands who are out there and sort of I'm thinking that they'll create various different bits of merchandise, and from the basics of selling tour T-shirts or whatever it might be, to all sorts of odd different objects and things that can get produced. What makes a great collectible from your point of view?
That's a great question, actually. And it's funny because if you ask me, personally, I like one-offs or closest to one-offs. And I think that's the reason this collection took the turn that it did. There are other people who, they love collecting the vinyl or they love collecting the promo CDs. There's a whole group of really, really great people on the internet, especially on Facebook. And I think it all depends on the collector, because I've met a lot of collectors who have the same passion as me. They just enjoy collecting and keeping different things. Like me, I've always liked, I consider like everything I collect like pieces of the tablets that Moses had, physical items that were literally there. It just blows my mind, like museum pieces, artifacts. Something about that is so special to me, and I've always been like that even as a child. Like, I was like, wow, that was there. Or like, wow, this rock was on the moon. It's like, what?
Yeah, I like the way you described it, sort of it's sort of like fitting together a jigsaw, but something that all tells a story, which sort of makes sense as a collection.
Yeah, it's like coming up on a pool of dinosaur bones, and it's like, wow, where does this tooth go? Where does the jawbone go?
Mm.
Once you put it all together and you stand back and you look at it, you're like, it's obviously like, oh wow, he obviously was a herbivore or a carnivore, because look, and it's like, you look at all these things, and it's like, wow, this made the music. This was at that gig, or this made that sound, or this was in Noel's hands, or Noel used this, or he wore that, or whatever it is.
And is it that sort of criteria? So now that you've listed out a whole host of things that you've got, so you get a guitar, and then you get another guitar, you get awards, you've got all the different things that you've got. At the point that you're at now as a sort of a super fan, super collector, what sort of criteria and how do you filter? Right, there's another however many things out there. Where do you target?
Well, where do I target? Now personally, I'm targeting more on strictly one-off items. Like, when I say one-off, it's like, I don't know, the jacket that Tony wore on the premiere, that Oasis premiered on Jules Holland.
Right. And that's pretty specific, right? That's
yeah. That's pretty specific. I actually have that. That's why I mentioned that. Tony McCarroll, actually one of my good friends. What a guy! Like, we spent some time in Manchester a few months ago, and he's just literally, he is a dude. When I say a dude, like, he is the coolest guy. That jacket he's wearing on the premiere of Jules Holland, they played Whatever. You can see that video. It's a brown pinstripe jacket, and it's things like that it's like it was there. It was there, and so that is my criteria now. Almost like it had to be there.
Right. Okay. It's something that can be sort of mapped to a point in time that helps tell the story.
Exactly. That's exactly what it is. It has to be mapped and, Trace may be seen in a photograph or something, but it had to be there present at the time.
Okay. So how much of your time is these days dedicated to this?
Oh my gosh. Yeah. So it's funny you say that, because, all right, so let's take today, for example. Today I was on the phone with my buddy, and we were discussing, some Oasis memorabilia that he was thinking about selling. So we spent literally 45 minutes on the phone. He's like, I'm going to make you a video. I'll send you pictures of this. I'll send you pictures of that. Let me know what you think about a price. We'll come to an agreement. So we spent 45 minutes on the phone. I haven't emailed anybody today specifically, but I will actually, about some things that I'm missing on some other things that I purchased. So that'll take me, 5 minutes. So I don't know, maybe an email a day, an hour conversation on the phone, this interview, which is an hour and a half. like, let's say today I don't have a package to go pick up, but if I had a package to go pick up, another hour getting the door tag, going to the post office or going to FedEx, waiting in line, signing for it, coming home, opening it, storing it, throwing the box away. All of that takes time, money, energy, gas.
In an average week, how many? I don't know if week is the right sort of time period to gauge this on, but how many pieces a week or a month are you typically collecting?
Oh, back when I was really starting to get things, I was getting about 3 or 4 things a day.
Right, wow.
A day. And only on Sundays I wouldn't get it because the post doesn't run on Sundays. But I have a few pictures that, I took thinking, like, it got so bad, like there was packages coming to my door that I forgot I had even bought. Like, had the seller not have sent it to this day, I probably wouldn't even know. I probably wouldn't even care. I'd open up packages. That's when you've got a problem. But now it's slowed down just because the memorabilia I collect now it's so hard to find, so rare, and so expensive. Like, the rarer you get, obviously you're going to be paying more money for it. And I just I don't really like to sell anything if I don't have to. And luckily right now, there's not anything being offered that's like, crazy money where I'm like, all right, well, now I got to start thinking of what can I either sell or what can I trade or what can I do to acquire this item.
Yes.
But,
so do you sell any of your collection in order to get a better item into your collection?
Initially, I didn't. Initially, I was just a massive hoarder. I would buy things. The rarer the item was, I would buy them, and I'd always tell myself, I always tell my wife, well, I'm buying this, so I can use it as, maybe collateral in the future. But in my mind, it wasn't really for that. It was just because it was rare.
Yeah.
And she was like, well, I buy something new. She's like, well, you have some trainers, you have some NG, the No Gallagher trainers that they made back in 2011. They only made like 200 pair of those, and so I had a lot of pair of those. And she would say, well, why don't you sell some of those and you can buy that whatever item you were worried about buying? And I was like, what? No, I don't sell. No, don't be silly. Don't be silly. But it actually got to the point to where there were some items that are just astronomical. Like, when you're offered maybe one item, it's like, hey, all right, give me a little bit of time to gather, something. Let me see what I can do. But then when you're offered 3 items at thousands of pounds a piece, it's like, okay, something's got to go.
Yeah.
Because if I don't buy it now, somebody's going to buy it and I'll never see it again.
Yeah.
So the NG72s were the first thing to go. So I've exhausted almost all of those. I think I only have one more pair left that I'd like to get rid of. But at one time I had 15 pair. So now I'm down to 1. So if anybody out there wants a pair, let me know.
I've got to ask, you've mentioned your wife there. What does she make of all of this? Is she a fan?
She is I don't see what it's getting into this whole fan thing. That's how I met her. Like, she walked into my work and we started talking, and I thought she was cute and whatnot. And one of my criteria is, like, if I'm going to date you, especially marry you, like, you have to like Oasis. Like, it's just, you can't think. You have to tolerate them at least. You can't think.
I could see it being a problem if she hated them.
Yeah. So one of the first questions I asked was hey, do you know a band called Oasis? And she was like, oh yeah. She looked at me like, are you dumb? And she goes, yeah. Stop Crying My Heart Out is one of my favorite songs. And I was like, oh my God, I'm gonna marry this girl. And sure enough, we're married. But yeah, she loves them. She enjoys the music. And, she even allowed me to name our first daughter Oasis. Like, how crazy is that? Like, she was cool with it.
Good stuff.
But, yeah, so she is actually, I do need to give credit to her for this collection being as big as it is because, money can only buy so much. It takes support. It takes patience and support, man. Like, you cannot imagine how much patience and support
I can, yeah, I can imagine. I mean, there's so many things that undoubtedly the amount of money that you've spent on your collection could have been spent on all sorts of other things. You know?
All sorts. And she's cool with it. Like, she's like, yeah, that's what you do. Okay. As long as we have what we need, the girls have what they need. Not just what they need, but, you know, as long as all the needs and extras, you know, are being met. And if you want to do your thing, I'm going to let you do your thing. Yeah. And I look at it and I'm just like, it literally is mind blowing. And I do feel very lucky to come home and walk in and see it all here. So it's fantastic, actually.
If there's one piece you could add to your collection, what would it be?
Had to ask that, and it just gives me this. It made me lose sleep for the longest time. It is the acoustic unplugged Takamine guitar that Noel used, not just on MTV Unplugged, but he used it in the Stand By Me music video. He used it at Nebworth, and that guitar was initially offered to me. When he offered it to me for a certain amount. And I was like, cool guitar, great history. You know, had all the provenance to it. Like he was like very, very close to the band. It was the guitar. And I was like, yeah, well, I'll offer you this much. He's like, it's a little short on what I'm wanting for it. And we kind of went back and forth, and I was like, oh, you know what? Well, here's my final offer. If you want to, I'll send the money over right now. And I was thinking, he'll take it. He'll take it. Sure enough, 5 months pass. You know, we kind of, we were friends and we'd talk, but I kind of forgot, being busy with, life and whatnot.
Yeah.
Work. And it popped into my mind one day. I was like, oh, you know what? I was like, I think I want to buy that guitar. So I messaged him, and he's like, goes, oh mate, no. He's like, no. He goes, I just sold that guitar last week. Oh my God, I swear to God, I thought I cried. I think I cried, actually. I was like, no. I didn't cry, but I was like, I just remember that sinking feeling, like, oh my God, like, no. But the Takamine. So, you know who you are listening to me. If you ever want to sell that Takamine, I've got a good home for it in Texas. So that, and I'll tell you what else. Let's see. Oh, I know what else. Actually, I think more incredible than that guitar was Tony's drum kit, his Red Pearl drum kit that was sold. I think it was offered at Christie's, and it sold at. I don't think it met any reserve at Christie's. I think it was sold privately afterwards. I remember talking to Tony about it. I don't remember exactly where it sold. I think it did sell either sold at Christie's or somewhere else right after. But I was heartbroken to know that it sold. And I would like to, even if I don't own it, I just like to know where it is. Like that's one mystery. Like I don't know where that drum kit is at. All the other guitars, I think I know who owns them or where they're at, so it's not like it's that big of a deal. But Tony's Red Pearl drum kit, that is the unicorn for me right now.
It's gone off the radar.
Yeah, it's gone off the radar, and that is so sad. Like that is so sad as a collector. Like I would like to know where that's at. So yeah, that's the piece. Tony's Red Pearl drum kit.
Brilliant. Well, look, Brian, this has given a great sort of insight into the whole collecting of certain pieces on a band, and getting to the point of being a real dedicated sort of super fans. It's been great to talk with you. In terms of wrapping up, let's give a few quick questions. So, favourite song?
Oh, favourite song, I would have to say, obviously, Don't Look Back in Anger, and let me give a shout out to It's Good to Be Free and Acquiesce. Oh, and Listen Up. There we go. There we go. Those are it. Listen Up is... How beautiful are those vocals, Liam?
No, not bad. Not bad.
Yeah.
I always edge towards Supersonic myself.
Yeah, Supersonic is a tune as well. Not
bad. Favourite album?
Favorite album? What's the Story of Morning Glory?
I thought you'd say that. I tend to go definitely maybe myself, but
so groundbreaking. It is. It truly is.
Favourite live performance?
Barrowlands, or no, Main Road or Barrowlands.
Well, be Barrowlands for me, just because I was there.
Oh my God, are you serious? Wow.
Yeah,
what a performance!
Not the one that's recorded. They did 2 nights.
Right.
And it was the other one that Ben and myself was there. It was one of the first gigs that I ever went to. So I was still quite young at that point. But yeah, that was interesting. Having not been to many gigs at that point,
I can only imagine.
And going up to Scotland, it was quite. I remember when the music first started to come on, and this is before they'd even came onto stage. I don't think our feet actually touched the floor for what seemed like about 5 minutes.
Yeah. I can totally understand that. What a performance!
But yeah,
Main Road second night was something else as well.
Definitely. Favorite band member?
Oh, if the more I thought about this, Liam has to be. If I had to say favorite, I have a special place for Nolan's. Kind of I know he's the top dog, but without Liam, he's the face for Oasis. He is the front man. He is that energy. And Bonehead, you know what? We have to stop right here and give major credit to Bonehead, because he really is that driving, that he is that Oasis sound. He is that raw initial Oasis sound. So Bonehead and Liam, there.
We played a gig with Bonehead back in the day. This was post Oasis when he was doing some acoustic gigs with someone.
How was that?
It was good. It was good. It was interesting. Just we ended up. I mean, again, you're talking about Tony there, but the same with Bonehead. Just completely down to earth guy. We just sort of sitting having drinks with him, sort of before and after. We're just talking to you like a normal guy. So good chat.
Bonehead's driving sound. He was the Oasis sound. Liam was the Oasis image. Noel was the lyrics and the music.
Well, Brian, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on the show.
Thank you for having me, guys. Thank you very much for having me.
Take care, and we'll look forward to hearing how plans for the museum progress.
Yeah, we'll do another podcast about that as well. Looking forward to it.
Definitely.
So what's the bit of memorabilia you would like if you could have anything?
Oasis specific?
Or it doesn't have to be.
Oh, that is a good question. I would like probably a guitar, being a guitarist. I would like one of John Frusciante's guitars. I think that's what I would like.
Not Anthony Clears's hair.
No, I mean anyone's hair would be nice. To be fair, I knew the avenue you were taking me down there, James. But yes, I would say, John. If I'm going to have one bit of kit, one thing, I'm going to go big and have John Frusciante's guitar.
Not a Dave Grohl guitar.
No. I probably would rather have a Dave Grohl drum kit.
Yeah, that's
yeah. I would prefer.
I was listening to Californication the other day as it goes.
Beautiful.
That still stands up.
Oh, does it ever? That is also older than the students at my university.
Yes. I can imagine it will be.
What would you choose?
I don't know, because if I got a guitar, it would probably just sit in a corner and I wouldn't really do anything with it.
Well, I would play it.
No, yeah, but I probably wouldn't because I don't really play the guitar much. I would probably want...
Wait a second, it's going to be David Bowie related.
Well, not necessarily Bowie, but whether it's Bowie or any of the lyricists that I really like, if they had scrapbooks with all their notes when they were sort of writing, sketching out like potential lyrics and writing sort of songs, and a scrapbook of lyric notes from any of my big favourite artists, that would be particularly good.
Like the side notes of Hunky Dory, for example.
Oof.
That would be very nice.
Yeah.
Or yeah, I guess. Oh, maybe it's like the
just fanning through it and seeing, what did the ditch, what might it have looked like?
Yeah.
I would like that sort of stuff.
Yeah. So James, great episode with Brian. I really enjoyed it. Being an Oasis fan, it was quite nice to hear like someone talk about their fandom and me go, well, I thought I was a fan.
He needs to open a museum at some point. I need to pick back up with him and see how things are going.
Yeah, and I quite like the fact he's not from Manchester or the Britpop era. He found it in a different way, and it means something different to like what maybe I or someone who was 21 in Nebworth in '96. Like it's good how you can see a band is just spread for different reasons.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, James, next week we have Jimmy Adkins from the band Jimmy Eat World. Here is a little snippet.
Just dicking around at practice and somebody does something that sounds kind of cool and another person says, hey, do that again, and then then you have two parts to something.
All of the show notes for today's episode can be found at acpgmusic.com, along with our back catalogue of episodes. If you like what you hear, or perhaps have some improvements or specific guests you'd like us to consider, we'd love to hear from you. Email us at info@acpgmusic.com or hit us up on social media. Keep supporting upcoming artists, and we'll catch you next time.